Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am Dr. Shamshad. We are going to discuss an important topic of pulmonology, that is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. So this disease has got three names. One is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, second chronic obstructive airway disease, and third is the chronic obstructive lung disease. There are two diseases that leads into chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. These drain into this and the result of chronic bronchitis and emphysema. These leads into COPD. So what is chronic bronchitis? If there is a cough with sputum production for 3 months or more in 2 consecutive years, then that is called chronic bronchitis. And what is emphysema? Emphysema is abnormal and permanent dilatation of bronchi and the bronchioles, terminal bronchioles without fibrosis. These two diseases can lead into COPD. BTS guideline says that it is a chronic, slowly progressive disorder characterized by airflow obstruction that does not change markedly over several months. Another definition of COPD: it is preventable and treatable disease. What is that? It is can this disease can be prevented, and if this disease occurs, we can treat this disease. It has got some extra pulmonary effects that may contribute to its severity in individual patients. Yani, that means that it not only affects pulmonary components, but it has some extra pulmonary components. Pulmonary components is characterized by airflow limitation. What is meant by airflow limitation? That is obstruction of the airways. That is not fully reversible. This is the hallmark of this disease. Asthma is also, there is airflow limitation, but asthma is a reversible disease with medication or without medication. अस्थमा ब्रोंकोकंस्ट्रिक्शन जो होती है वो ठीक हो जाती है, बट इन सीओपीडी it is partially reversible disease. The airflow limitation is usually progressive and associated with abnormal inflammatory response of lung to noxious particle and gases. So what is the definition of COPD? It is preventable and treatable disease according to Gold. It has got pulmonary component and extrapulmonary component. And pulmonary component is characterized by airflow limitation, obstruction in the airflow that is not fully reversible. The airflow limitation is usually progressive and associated with abnormal inflammatory response of the lung to noxious particles and gases. There is a history. Now I will tell you the physician knowing this disease from the last 4 centuries. The one scientist, medical man known as Bonnet, he described this. On autopsy, you see that these patient has got a huge lungs, that is voluminous lungs. He described this in 1679. Bedham, about 200 years ago, used the word catarrh to refer chronic cough and mucus secretion and describe chronic bronchitis and chronic Lancet. It was a clinician, pathologist, and inventor of stethoscope in 1821. Emphysematous lungs, he is told that emphysematous lungs were hyperinflated and did not empty well. Hutchison, 1846. The first time invented a spirometer. It was a basic type of spirometer that measured only vital capacity to measure this disease. This is the picture of an old stethoscope invented by Laennec in 1821. It has got two chest piece and for So this is Mr. Lennick. This is the chest piece, and that is for to listen the breath sound. There is another portion. So this was the method how this was used in that time. This is the old spirometer, Hutchison 1846. This spirometer they use to measure the vital capacity that is usually decreased in these patients. You may have seen this somewhat resembling spirometers in your physiology lab in second year. So COPD is an umbrella term encompassing chronic bronchitis, emphysema, and chronic severe asthma. These three things ultimately drain into COPD. So what is the three diseases that leads to COPD? Is chronic bronchitis, emphysema, and chronic severe asthma. What is the epidemiology of COPD? It is a very important disease. It is more common in the males as compared to the females. What is the age in which this disease develops? Age is between 40 to 60 years of age. Urban population is more affected as compared to the rural population. Winter months, we see more cases as compared to the summer. Disease is more prevalent in lower socioeconomic class. In poor community, this disease is much more common as compared to in the rich peoples. So, more common in males. The age in which the patient develops COPD is 40 to 60. Urban population is more affected. Winter months, more cases. Low socioeconomic class has got more cases of COPD. What is the prevalence of COPD? Exact figure in Puffer, Pakistan is not known. In UK, 40 to 60 year of age population, males has 17% males have got COPD and 8% females has got COPD. In Pakistan, we haven't got the definite data. PMRC National Health Survey, chronic bronchitis over the age of 65. Rural areas, females 14%, males 6%. Chronic bronchitis, over 65 years of age, urban areas, both sexes 9%. But this is an old study which was done by the Pakistan Medical Research Council. It was done in the late 60s. According to this, females are more in Pakistan as compared to the male population. Now, what is the etiology of this disease? The most common cause of this disease is smoking, that is tobacco smoking. 85% cases of COPD, they are smoker or ex-smoker. What is ex-smoker? Those who have left smoking 6 months back. We label them ex-smokers. So, this is the disease mainly of smokers, whether hookah smoker or cigarette smokers. Who develops this COPD? There are smokers. Secondly, environmental factors. If there is environmental pollution, much more than those inhabitants of those areas, they develop COPD. Certain occupations, patient working in the dusty atmosphere, they develop more COPD. For example, crushing of the stones. What are the genetic factors? Certain population has got some genes that are predisposed them to develop COPD. So, the important factor is smoking, other is environmental factors, then occupational factors and certain genetic factors. What is pathophysiology of the disease? This disease affects three parts of the lung, that is airways, lung parenchyma and vasculature. That is airways, lung parenchyma and vasculatures. What occurs in the airways? In airways, there are glands that are called bronchial gland. In COPD patient, there is hypertrophy of the bronchial glands. There is metaplasia of the goblet cells, hyperplasia of the bronchial glands, metaplasia goblet cells, squamous metaplasia of the epithelium of the respiratory airways. Normally it is ciliated columnar type of epithelium, but in COPD it changes into squamous metaplasia and ciliary dysfunction is lost. What normally there are the ciliary movements, that is anti-gravity movements. They propel the secretion out of the lung towards the throat where we swallow or we spit. You must remember your physiology days that these ciliary actions of the cilia present in the respiratory passages, they are anti-gravity movements and they push the secretions outward and we swallow those secretions. In cases of COPD, this ciliary action of the respiratory epithelium is very much disturbed. And what other occurs in the airways? That is the smooth muscles present on the outer side of the airways. There is hypertrophy and lymphatic infiltrations in the walls of the airways. Ultimately, there is fibrosis, collagen deposition in the walls. This is the pathophysiology and the changes which occurs in COPD in the airways. I repeat, bronchial gland hypertrophy, metaplasia of the goblet cell, squamous metaplasia of the epithelium, ciliary dysfunction, smooth muscle hypertrophy, lymphatic infiltrations in the wall, and ultimately fibrosis and collagen deposition in the wall. This leads to the narrowing of the airways. Now, what occurs in the lung parenchyma? There are two enzymes present in the lung parenchyma, that is proteinase and antiproteinase. So there is imbalance. Antiproteinase's activity is, proteinase activity is enhanced, leading to the damage of the lung parenchyma and patient develop emphysema or bullous formation. Number 3, lung vasculature. What happens to the blood vessels present in the lung parenchyma? There is thickening of the intima and luminal narrowing of the blood vessel and the vascular. This leads to the backward pressure on the heart and the right heart dilatation and patient may develop cor pulmonale. So, pathophysiology, again we repeat, it is a chronic inflammatory disease that affects lung airways of the respiratory passages, lung parenchyma and lung vasculatures. What occurs in the airways? Bronchial gland hypertrophy, metaplasia of goblet cells, squamous metaplasia of airways, ciliary dysfunction, loss of smooth muscle hypertrophy, lymphocytic infiltrates in the walls, fibrosis and collagen deposition. These changes occurs in the airways. What occurs in the lung parenchyma? There is proteinases and antiproteinases imbalance and leading to emphysema and bullous formation. What occurs in the blood vessels present in the lung parenchyma? There is intimal thickening of the intima of the blood vessels. That leads to the narrowing of the lumen of the blood vessel. So when there is narrowing of the lumen of the blood vessels, there is backward pressure in the right atrium increases and patient develops JVP and pedal edema or large pulsatile liver, that is right heart failure, that is called cor pulmonale. This is the pathophysiological pictures of the lung. You can see there are the many bulla formations present in the lung, and both lungs are voluminous. That is, they are more volume, they are increased due to air trapping. So, in this slide, we are comparing normal bronchi and COPD airways or chronic bronchitic airways, hypertrophy of the smooth muscles, metaplasia of the goblet cells, and ciliary dysfunction, all leading to the narrowing of the airways, and it is filled with the increased secretion and stasis of the secretion. Why? Ciliary movements of the cilia is disturbed. There is stasis of the secretion, which are the good media for infections to develop. Global impact of COPD. This is a very important disease. By 2030, expected rank, sorry, fifth most common disease in the world. It is currently the fourth leading cause of death in the world. It is the only preventable cause of death currently, which is increasing day by day. So, COPD is a preventable disease. If we prevent it, we can decrease mortality due to this disease. So, what impact of COPD of this chronic disease on the person? First of all, there is impairment of function. Patient can move, but its functions are not normal, it is impaired. Then if the disease further increases, then disability occurs. And ultimately patient is handicapped. That is only sitting and he is short of breath. So first of all there is impairment, then there is a disability, and then person is handicapped. Percentage changes in the age-adjusted death rates proportion to of these 1965 rates. In this slide, we can see the different diseases. Coronary heart disease is decreasing trend is there. If we compare it with 1965 to nowadays 2002, there is a downward trend. This is coronary heart disease cases are decreasing. Similarly, stroke cases in compared to 1965 to 1998, it is downward trend decreasing. Cardiovascular diseases also decreasing. But you see COPD, the curve is going upward. 163% increases in the cases of COPD from 1965 to 1998. Such a heavy increase in this, the cases of COPD. Main cause of, I have told in the previous slides that it is cigarette smoking, pollution, environmental pollutions, and some genetic factors is leading to COPD. So, it is the only preventable disease that can decrease the mortality if we prevent COPD. Decline in the lung function as seen in FEV1 in smoker and susceptible smokers. Normally, after the age of 30, everybody, even smoker or not smoker, the lung function start declining. But in smoker, that fall in the lung function is more rapid as compared to the non-smokers. COPD is an disease. Mostly patients are smokers, they are coughing, then they attribute to their problems to the cigarette smoke. At least half of the affected COPD may be undiagnosed. Patient disease is insidious in onset, often treated as asthma, but it is different from asthma. Smokers do not seek treatment. They attribute to this their disability, their productive cough, their shortness of breath to the cigarette smoke. can present late with more advanced disease. So usually these patients present to the health facilities very late when the disease is very much advanced. Usually the symptom develops or symptom of COPD when the forced vital capacity is 50% or less than that. So then these patients develops to the some major symptoms and they present to medical facilities. So what is the impact on the patient? How these patients present? Psychological impact, physiological impact, and social impact. So when you see these patients in the medical OPDs, usually these patients are over the age of 40. If you take history, mostly 80% are smoker or ex-smoker. I have told you who is ex-smoker? The person who quitted smoking at least 6 months or more. So what is the presentation? Cough, mainly with excessive sputum production and shortness of breath. Shortness of breath, that is dyspnea. What is dyspnea? That is awareness of breathing. What type of shortness of breath these people are? Mainly exertional. You must remember that in asthma, patient can develop shortness of breath, but in COPD, we can differentiate well in the shortness of breath of asthma and COPD with this single sentence by asking the patient in the history that he develops shortness of breath when he start exertion, start moving, going to the washroom or lifting slight heavy weight. So patient develops shortness of breath. While asthma is shortness of breath is different. Suddenly develops. He is sitting very normally. When the triggers comes and mast cell degranulates and the patient develops shortness of breath. So dyspnea is the reason most patients seek to the medical attention. So what type of dyspnea they have got? Exertional dyspnea. You must differentiate this type of dyspnea in the history of the patient. So what test we are going to do in these patients when they present to us? We do X-ray chest, we do spirometry. In the spirometry, we can see that forced vital capacity is decreased. FEV1 is decreased and the ratio between FEV1 over FVC is 70% or less than 70%. Both in asthma is also obstructive airway disease, so FEV1 FVC ratio is less than 70%. In COPD is the same. No, how you can differentiate these patients of COPD from asthma on the basis of spirometry? We get baseline spirometry, then we give bronchodilator short acting like salbutamol, and we repeat spirometry after 20 minutes. If there is increase in the value of FEV1 or forced vital capacity by 15% or more, patient is asthmatic. In COPD, there is only 5% or no improvement in FEV1 or FVC. What is FEV1? Forced expiratory volume in 1 second. And what is FVC? Forced vital capacity. These are increased by 15% or more in cases of COPD. In cases of asthma, sorry. And in COPD, they are not increased or there is some 2-3% or 5% increase, not that of 15%. And there is a loop on the spirometry. We can see that there is in COPD, the red color loop is of COPD. Expiratory time is very much increased in these patients. If we can get an X-ray chest, you will see a very hyperinflated lung field. Both lungs are very much hyperinflated. On the right side, if you see, on the left side, you see an X-ray chest. it is very much hyperinflated. On the right side, there is a CT scan of this patient, of COPD patient. You see that there are bulla formation and there is air trapping. This hyperinflation is due to air trapping in these patients. So how we categorize COPD? Stages of COPD. If FEV1 is more than 80% of the predicted, but FEV1 FVC ratio is less than 70%, and the only FEV1 is more than 80%, it is mild COPD. In moderate COPD, FEV1 FVC ratio is less than 70%, but FEV1 is 50% or between 50 to 80%. In very severe COPD, ratio is again less than 70%. What ratio? FEV1 and FVC ratio is less than 70%, but FEV1, when we measure the FEV1, it is between 30 to 50, 30% or not more than 50%. We label these cases as severe COPD. What is very severe COPD? Here the ratio is again less than 70%, FEV1 FVC ratio, and FEV1 is between 30% or less than that, or 50% with chronic respiratory failure. Patient has got carbon dioxide retention. So there are four types of COPD: mild, moderate, severe, and very severe. Why we categorize this? This shows severity of the disease and helps in the management of these patients. So in OPD, what type of history these patient gives to you? These mostly they are heavy smokers or ex-smoker in COPD. In asthma, there is no smoking history or maybe smoking. What is chesty child? In children comes to with wheeze, they are asthmatic, not COPD. Cough and sputum production for many years is present in cases of COPD. In asthma, in these cases, there is dry cough or rarely productive cough. Breathlessness. In COPD, it started gradually. In asthma, it is sudden in onset and improves with medication. Breathlessness varies, and it is exertional type of breathlessness. Attacks of breathlessness at rest. In COPD, it is not there, but in asthma, it is common. Early morning cough. Early morning cough is very much common in cases of asthmatic patient. Patient gave history of attacks of coughing early morning when he wake up. But in COPD, it is present all the day. Cough at night is more common in asthma, but it is uncommon in cases of COPD. So, what investigation you are going to do in cases of COPD? FEV1, we are doing spirometry on these patients. FEV1 in COPD is low, in asthma it is low or normal. Peak expiratory flow rate may be low, in asthma again it is low or normal. Daily variation in peak flow is very little in COPD, but this variation is much more prominent in cases of asthma. Response to bronchodilator therapy in cases of COPD, it is partial response. In the spirometry, when you do short-acting bronchodilators and do the spirometry, change in FEV1 or FEV's forced vital capacity is partial, but it is more than 15% change in cases of asthma. If you send the sputum of these patients for eosinophilia, it is present in case eosinophils are present in cases of asthma, but not in COPD. What is the difference on the X-ray chest? In COPD, there is hyperinflation. In asthma, usually X-ray chest is normal or overinflation during the attacks only. Effects of corticosteroid trials, much more improvement is there in cases of asthma, but there is a partial response in cases of COPD. So, how you are going to treat COPD cases? First of all, we have divided the cases into mild, moderate, severe, and very severe COPD. We advise these. Number one is cessation of smoking. Number two, short-term goals and long-term goals in the management of COPD. What is the short-term goals? Immediate relief of breathlessness and relief of symptoms. What are the long-term goals? Prevent the disease progression, reduce exacerbation, which are mainly seen in cases of winter season, improve quality of life so patient can independently move, improve exercise tolerance, and reduce mortality. So, what are the goals in the management of COPD? Short-term goals, symptom improvements in the breathlessness. Long-term goals, prevent disease progression, reduce exacerbations, improve quality of life, improve exercise tolerance, and reduce mortality. Goals, smoking cessation, avoidance of pollution. We educate the patient about the disease and its effects. What is physiotherapy? Pulmonary rehabilitation, certain exercises. We do vaccination and obesity and nutritional interventions and surgery. Avoidance of smoking cessation. When we stop smoking, we ask this patient to avoid smoking, then their lung function decline is reduced. So this will affect their quality of life. We educate, we tell them what is happening to their lungs due to these noxious particles of smoke or airway pollution. And we educate them not to smoke and to avoid from the such type of professions like stone crushing or some industries which are producing lot of smoke or air pollution. Physiotherapy, certain physiotherapy exercises, these helps in the cases of rehabilitation of these patients. This is also called pulmonary rehab labs. Here we teach these patients about the respiratory exercises. And there is a good role of vaccination in these patients. We give them pneumococcal vaccination, so the infection of the lung can be prevented, pneumonia is prevented. We also give flu shots to these patients every year. And what is nutritional intervention? We give them less carbohydrate diet, so less carbon dioxide is produced. What is the role of surgery? If there is some bullous present in the upper lobe of the lung and patient can tolerate the surgery, we can do bullectomy. So the pressure on the lung is reduced and functional capacity of this patient is very much increased. But this is very invasive surgery and very less people are fit for this type of surgery. So avoidance of pollution, education, physiotherapy, pulmonary rehabilitation, exercise, vaccination, what type of vaccination, flu vaccination shots every year, and pneumococcal vaccination every 5 years. And we modify their diets and reduce carbohydrate components and increase protein components in their diets. And surgery in few cases, when there are bullous, we do bullectomies. So what is the pharmacological treatment? Beta-2 agonist, short acting and long acting beta-2 agonist we can give in inhaled form. Anticholinergic, short acting and long acting. Inhaled steroids, these are given in very severe COPD. Antibiotic and oral steroid when patient present in acute exacerbation of COPD. At that point, antibiotics are given. What is acute exacerbation of COPD? These usually occurs, these exacerbation mostly occurs in the winter season. Patient present, his cough is more worsened, his dyspnea is more increased, and the color of the sputum is purulent or pussy. Main cause of morbidity and mortality. Infective. So that is an indirect evidence that patient has developed some infections, maybe bacterial or viral. Exacerbation may be non-infective, but mostly there's the infective exacerbations. What are the most common pathogens that affect these patients? These are Streptococcus pneumoniae, H. influenzae, Moraxella catarrhalis. These are the most common bugs that affects the COPD patients in cases of exacerbations. Again repeat, Streptococcus pneumoniae, H. influenzae, Moraxella catarrhalis. So if you have to give antibiotics to these patients, the most common antibiotics, most effective antibiotics in these cases, amoxicillin, macrolides, clarithromycin or azithromycin, respiratory quinolones like moxifloxacin, ciprofloxacin, and second generation cephalosporin. So these are the antibiotics. These are usually prescribed during the exacerbation. While in routine, these patients are using beta agonist and anticholinergics. Inhaled steroid, they are using, well, what category of COPD is using inhaled steroid? That is very severe COPD, severe and very severe COPD. So the most common bugs are Streptococcus pneumoniae, H. influenzae, and Moraxella catarrhalis. Choices of antibiotics: amoxicillin, macrolides, respiratory quinolone, and cephalosporin. So, what is the nutshell of this? Stop smoking or stop breathing. So, I again repeat that stable COPD and COPD presenting in exacerbations. Patient presenting in exacerbations, the most common bacteria that affect these patients is Streptococcus pneumoniae, H. influenzae, and Moraxella catarrhalis. What antibiotics you have to give to these patients? Amoxicillin, macrolide, respiratory quinolone, and cephalosporin. And what are the bronchodilators needed to these patients? Short-acting beta agonist, inhaled steroid, and anticholinergic. Short-acting and long-acting. And oral steroids are given in exacerbation and oxygen therapy in some cases with type 2 respiratory failure. So again, we repeat the non-pharmacological management without drugs. What management we can do to this patient? Smoking cessation, avoidance of pollution, education, physiotherapy, pulmonary rehabilitation, exercise, vaccination, obesity, and nutritional intervention, and in the end, surgery. This is the non-pharmacological management. And what is the pharmacological management? That is inhaled bronchodilators, long-acting anticholinergic, short-acting or long-acting anti-beta agonist, inhaled steroids in severe COPD, antibiotics and oral steroid in cases of exacerbation. Oxygen is given when there is type 2 respiratory failure. How the exacerbation patient present? Patient usually gave history of worsening cough, dyspnea, and more sputum and change in the color of the sputum. The most important cause of this exacerbation is bacterial infections. And what are the bacteria involved in these cases? These are the Streptococcus pneumoniae, H. influenzae, Moraxella catarrhalis. And what antibiotics you will prescribe to these patients? Amoxicillin, macrolides, respiratory quinolones, and cephalosporins. So, what a lethal thing is smoking. So, stop smoking or stop breathing. This is the take home message. It is a very disturbing and disease which is increasing day by day. It is a great burden on the economy of the country and over the great burden over the health facilities. Thank you very much. So it is, I will advise you that you should go to open your book, open COPD chapter and try to distinguish and learn between asthma and COPD, how you can differentiate between asthma and COPD. It is important. So I can briefly summarize that COPD is most important cause is smoking. Patient is usually over the age of 40. If you do spirometry with reversibility, there is little change, while in asthma there is 15% more change in forced vital capacity and FEV1. X-ray, voluminous lung, hyperinflated, and sorry. And the drugs you needed: beta agonist, steroids, inhaled steroids, and severe COPD. In mild and moderate COPD, you can give inhaled ipratropium bromide and salbutamols or long-acting beta agonist. When patient present in exacerbation, then we add antibiotics and oral steroids. So this is the nutshell of COPD. I hope I'm able to convey at least few words about COPD. Thank you very much.